Hey guys, and welcome back to Women Empowerment Wednesday. Today we have the beautiful Gwen, who is out of LA. She's a philosophy professor, a mom, and she's like a public speaker. And we're going to go into all that different things that she does. But Gwen, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, first of all, thank you for having me. I
Of
like
course.
to be in the women's empowerment space. A little bit about me, I've been studying philosophy since I started undergrad. I took my first class, fell in love with it, and just decided I needed more. So I had to deal with that question of, but what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? And I just carried on.
Hmm.
And people were like, when are you going to stop? When are you going to stop? Because then I went into my PhD. I
Hmm.
studied in Belgium. And then I came back to the States and started teaching at the university level in 2006, so for 20
Okay.
years. And
Okay.
then a few years ago, I started an educational podcast and also became a mama.
I love it. I feel like I'm just going to get, just by being in your presence, I'm going to get so much like knowledge and everything else. So I
Oh, thank
absolutely
you.
love it. And then Gwen has a beautiful library. And that's something that I achieve to have when I get my forever home. I want to have like a huge library. So you are my inspiration because that's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Books
welcome.
everywhere. They're stacked
I
up.
love it.
I just recently had this memory. I don't know what I was doing. It was, I think, for a magazine, an interview, and
Mhm.
it was asking about inspiration. And I have these memories of my dad. He was a bookworm. So if it's nurture or
Mhm.
nature, I don't know, but I am like that. And he passed away when I was 14. But I
Okay.
think about how the books would be stacked up on the nightstand, or there would
Hmm.
be, I mean, there were just books everywhere, and then properly on the bookshelves.
Hmm.
And now I look at my own place and I see the same thing. Like I have
And I
the big
love it.
bookshelves and then the books stacked up everywhere. And I'm in the practice of reading to my daughter every night. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's something like they almost feel like a photo album. I mean, because I can look at the books and I can remember why I bought them or where I
Yes.
was. Did somebody
Yes.
recommend it? But I also have books on my Kindle, and no shade to Kindle. I love the Kindle, but I don't remember those books.
Mm-mm.
I don't remember them, but there's something about having the
A
physical copy.
physical
Yeah.
copy. Yes. And I absolutely love it. And like you said, passing that along, like you saw your dad with the books, you're like a bookworm and now you're passing that along to your daughter. And that's so important. And then there's nothing wrong that could be done with books. There's so many different genres. Like I can get lost in Barnes and Noble. Like don't even get me started. It's like a
Yes.
oh. But yes, your library is my inspiration. So thank you. So, what do you feel is like the default script for women even today?
Even today, I mean, let's see. The kind of in the people pleaser mode, not prioritizing ourselves, just being very
Hmm.
much aware of being perceived. And what we're learning is that there are so many layers, because even if we
Hmm.
say in a broad scope women, as a white woman, for example, I will experience that in a different vein than my
Hmm.
friends who are Latina, my friends who are
Hmm.
Asian, my friends who are Black, or anywhere in between. And there is, yeah, there's a different layer. So as a white woman, there's like this fragility and this supposed to be alliance with the patriarchal structure.
Hmm.
Black women will deal with when they're young, before they're women, a hypersexualization. Same thing with
Hmm.
young Latina girls.
Right.
And yeah, a hypersexualization. And then as they get older, then in the workforce, they're not only dealing with being a woman, but then some other layer, like a Black woman, is she angry, for instance, or she's supposed to be strong? And in
Hmm.
so many ways, we still deny women access to their full humanity outside of that caricature.
Right.
And that needs to be, it I don't know exactly how to correct that, other than to first be aware that the problem exists in the first place. And so
Yes.
there seems to be a denial that that exists. But I would say that, yeah, women still are seen as they, or women might feed into this idea that they need to take on the most amount of domestic labor, the most
Right.
amount of the emotional load. Like, do doctors' offices and schools have the mom's number, or do they have the dad's, or do they have both? Whose
Right.
workday gets stopped? Who is making the dentist appointments? Who is buying the
Hmm.
gifts for the next kids' party? And so the women take on the majority of that. And I also don't want to, I want to be cautious here because there's a lot of joy in those activities as well. You
Hmm.
know, like I do enjoy, helping my daughter choose a gift for a friend. This
Hmm.
isn't something that's bad, but women are participating so much more in the workforce, and then they have this added stuff. And then at the
Hmm.
end of the day, they're exhausted, and their partner is wondering, why are you so tired? You're just taking care of
What
me.
did you do all day?
I'm like, so you made a phone call for the dentist and you're tired, boo-hoo. But there is something. There was a woman by the name of Kate Mangino, Dr. Kate Mangino, and she
Okay.
wrote this great book called Equal Partners. And she described it as a restaurant where women are the managers of the restaurant. That means you always have to think about the food for the next day, the
Hmm.
deliveries, is everybody on time? Whereas men, and this is general, but men tend to be like one of the employees that when their shift is done, then they get to go home. But women have this constant running list of making sure that everything's okay. And I think that that spans across, um, different sexual orientations and also different
Hmm.
races.
Yeah, and I would agree. And like you said, I'm glad that you layered it because again, like as a white woman or a Latino woman or a black woman,
Yeah.
it's different. It's the same in a lot of different avenues, like you said, as far as like the domestic stuff, what they
Yeah.
expect us women to do, but then it's also layered and it's different. And then again, like you said, in the workforce, now we're expected to either work more or how we're perceived. And so it's kind of like we have to tiptoe around like everything we do almost. In order to be accepted in society. So,
Yeah.
when did you feel like the script didn't fully align with who you are?
I know from studying philosophy. I mean, I just fell in love. I still remember my first class in undergrad. Now, philosophy is an outlier in terms of, a major.
Hmm.
It's not a giant major, but I was also an outlier within that group, within that niche,
Okay.
because it's male dominated. It is the most male dominated academic field. It's also the whitest academic
Wow.
field. So the
Okay.
white part, I'm okay, but I
Right.
wasn't an outlier there. But with being a woman, like there were classes where I would be the only woman in the,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
and I was the only woman who walked at graduation. There were other women who had earned their degree, but yeah, but less of a quarter of all PhDs in philosophy are women, and then women of color getting their PhD in philosophy, it barely makes a blip on the radar. And so, what I have done in my academic career, as I have been very conscious of this, and
Hmm.
I have included, other voices, if you will, on my syllabus. Because
Yes.
if there is just going to be this trajectory of this, maleness and whiteness, there's not a reason why a young student who was a woman would gravitate to that major. They don't think it is for them, but
Right.
philosophy is for everyone. And so in that way, I was an outlier because, like I said, I mean, everybody was like, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? And I would say law
Right.
school. And then I applied to law school and I got in. And I remember holding the letter and thinking, oh shit, this isn't what I want to do. I
Okay.
was telling everybody law school to make them feel comfortable with the fact that I said I'm studying philosophy. And that realization was hard because I ended
Yeah.
up continuing to study. And then that studying takes a big chunk of, your early to mid 20s. And I
Hmm.
had other friends who were getting married at that time, maybe even starting families. And I was still traveling, and I was even asked by a couple of people, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to be
Yeah.
in one place? And I just I've just always had this curiosity. Like, I want to see everything. I want to
Hmm.
taste everything. I want to read everything. I want to meet different people.
Yeah.
And that was just how I wanted to live. That doesn't mean that I would deny the value of anybody else's trajectory,
Right.
but I was kind of getting this pressure of, why are you spending all this time reading? Nobody's going to want to, you're not going to be able to get married if you're just reading all the
Oh
time,
my
or
God.
dating or studying.
Yeah. But that's something fundamental. So I want to go back to something you said about your syllabus and how you would have like invite
Mhm.
other people in, because representation I feel like is huge. And that's one reason that I'm doing this, because like you said, no one, if it's a young black woman, she's not going to gravitate necessarily to an older white man who's trying to teach philosophy. But the matter that you brought in other people to
Mhm.
represent the woman or the male dominated fields as women, and as I'm assuming like maybe people of color, just to diversify it, I think that's huge. Because then it made
Yeah.
it realistic. Because I feel like, especially like nowadays, and I always think about like healing my inner child, is that I want a little girl who may look like me to look at me and be like, because she did it, I can do it too. And I think that's so important with like closing that gap. So thank you. I think that's huge. Thank you for that. And then, so what do you feel like as far as like parts of the script that are hardest for women to break away from?
I think maybe I'm experiencing this because I'm 48 and
48
there
where? Stop.
maybe I'm experiencing this a little bit, because there's a very big difference between, girl power when,
Hmm.
I'm in my 20s, and you want to resist this movement of like, you need to just make babies and not have a career. And then when
Yeah.
you get over childbearing age, it's a different thing. We're not even going to think about you. We're not going to even bother to tell you because you're done. And so when women age, it doesn't matter. This has been going on for years,
Hmm.
but they are this market for age defying products. And everything that is thrown at women my age is that it's some sort of a moral quest to look younger. That if you don't do this, people will wonder why you don't care about yourself. If you let
Oh
your
my
grays
God.
go, if you have all of your wrinkles, if you gain a bit of that weight from menopause, then
Hmm.
people are like, did she just give up? And so there's this moral push for women to maintain an appearance that makes everybody else feel good. And I don't think that's gone away. And again, this also shifts with race as well. So,
Hmm.
Black women for a very long time have, I mean, forever. It's only
Hmm.
recently where discussions about their hair in the workplace and what is considered to be professional. And
Hmm.
I deal because I'm of Polish descent, so I'm gonna have to deal with like more wrinkly skin than my
Hmm.
Black friends. But the Black women also they don't have to deal with that as much, but they have to deal with this discrimination based on how colorful they are, and
Hmm.
how, like, with their makeup and their nails, and also with their hairstyles, as though that expression somehow disqualifies or minimizes their intelligence.
Right.
And it's very, very upsetting. And then you also have Asian women who might be, it's depending on, if, it depends on how close they are with their family that has migrated.
Hmm.
But there can be this assumption that their reservedness or their quiet is also a lack of intelligence or initiative, when actually there is more of a cultural understanding of respecting authority, not this
Hmm.
fake it till you make it. That's a very American idea of,
Right.
extroverts are everything. And so Asian women will deal with, and especially if they're generally more petite, as though
Hmm.
they're fragile, not going to be in charge. And so there's, so much. And then Latina women also have to go through a lot of discrimination that's quite similar to Black women, where they're
Hmm.
considered to be hypersexual, spicy,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
All that maybe the audience can resonate with. How can women know the difference between who she really is and then who she's conditioned to be?
That is so hard because the
Hmm.
conditioning is so strong. One of the ways where you can figure it out, and I always advocate for travel, and I
Hmm.
don't want this to sound like some bougie, snotty thing because
Yeah.
trust me, I have traveled and stayed in hostels where like you have to wear flip-flops when you go to the shower. Like
The
I have
shower.
stayed in some shady places all for the sake of being able to go around a city. And
Hmm.
so I do recommend some sort of travel because culturally women will be treated differently or they'll have different attitudes. And then you get exposed to these other possibilities. Okay, but
Hmm.
let's say travel is not on your schedule. I recommend finding a woman that you really admire, and there's probably a biography or an autobiography on her. These are
Hmm.
one of the best ways, I think, to, get in touch with an honest idea of where you are and where you want to be, because the
Hmm.
things you learn about in these biographies or autobiographies is that the success and the glamour that we see, they come from humble beginnings and a lot of
Yes.
failures and a lot of doors closing. And so it helps us to, or helps me to
Hmm.
understand that, yeah, life is hard. People don't just give you stuff. You have to be able to move with the curveballs or else you'll
Exactly.
break. So when women want to figure out what they are, there is one other thing I'll throw out there. And this one is a tough one. It was standard 20
Hmm.
years ago, but it no longer is. And it's affecting, especially, I think, Gen Z.
Oh,
But all of us, we have to be comfortable with some silence, and we don't
yes.
find ourselves in silence anymore. Everything now, I recommend listening to podcasts. Yours, mine
Hmm.
goes in the details. So,
Yeah.
like when I go on a walk, I'm always like, I've got an audiobook or I've got music or I've got a
Hmm.
podcast. When I'm driving, I've got that. And then everything is done on the computer. We're having this conversation on the computer. I'm going to do
Right.
some work later on the computer, some writing. I mean, everything is on the computer. We have to turn it off and do, I don't know, gardening, yoga, maybe even drive in
Hmm.
silence,
Yes.
because what has happened is that we are no longer familiar with our inner voice because we are
Hmm.
constantly entertaining ourselves and throwing something on top. So if
Exactly.
even for like 10 minutes a day, shut off the electronics. You
Hmm.
don't have to sit still and meditate. Maybe just walk around the block or start your drive for the first 10 minutes, set your alarm in
Right.
silence. And that will be really, really helpful. That's my
And
recommendation. I know it's hard.
And what I love about what you said, to go back to the beginning, is the biographies. Now that's huge. That's something that I look up to different individuals, but I never, decided to read their biography. But like you said, it's not all glamour. It's not the highlight reels like we see on Instagram. Like they're telling you their literal story, from whether they were in a one bedroom apartment, which I was even thinking about my story. I'm not where I want to be, but like where I started, I'm just like, I almost cried this morning because I'm just like, I've come such a long way in 10 years. And, again, I think it's important to like show like the behind the scenes. Again, it's not all glitz and glamour. You literally have to fail your way forward, and you have to do it scared. You have to do it not with 100% plan. Cause like I'm a planner. So when I didn't have like certain little details, I would let that block me from my growth. And it's just like, you're never going to know everything. We're
Yeah.
always a student. We always have to grow. So again, that was a really good tip, guys, to get an autobiography, a biography on someone that you look up to, and just see what they're about. And it'll give you hope, and it'll be relatable. There's a lot of people who are moms that are trying to build businesses. Philosophy, like that's huge.
Yeah.
Constantly like learning, like I feel like we don't give ourselves enough credit. And so with that being said, just continue to be a student. So that was like huge what you said. And then the unplugging is huge.
Yeah.
You have to sit in silence, because that's when you're going to figure out your triggers. That's what you're going to learn, things that you love about yourself. But in order to have like that deep reflection, guys, you have to like be in complete silence. You got to turn the social media off. Like you said, go walking in a park, go sit by a pond, journal, and you'll be surprised at how much you really learn about yourself. Like you'll be surprised, because I reflect like almost every day. I feel like I reflect, and I'm learning something new, that maybe something happened in my childhood that's triggering me, that's why I act the way I act now. And it could be something
Yeah.
as small as somebody drinking some juice, like you just never know. But you have to sit with yourself in those thoughts, reflect back, and it'll all start to make sense.
Yeah, with writing, I have never I have never been able to write something by just sitting down in front of the computer. And
Hmm.
I mean, I remember one time I had to work on a paper for a conference and I said, I'm going to go for a walk down the street.
Hmm.
There's the baker. Oh my God, they have the best stuff. And
Okay.
my man said to me, he's like, I thought you had to write. And I said, I am. And what I meant by that is that the walk was me thinking through what I wanted to write. This is why there's that joke about thoughts that you have in the shower or shower thoughts.
Hmm.
It's because it is probably one of the only times that you are alone with your thoughts. But
Silent.
yeah, it's when your mind just relaxes that then you solve some sort of a problem. And
Yes.
even being in new spaces, I just heard this is proven by neuroscience, although I sound like I don't remember where I heard it, but I'm sure I can look up and find the actual science. But one of the benefits of being in a new place, so it doesn't even have to
Hmm.
be travel. It could be just go to the next town over and a cafe you've never been to before
Yeah.
because your brain is used to familiarity. So when you put yourself in a place where you are not familiar, and it could be a radical change like different languages around you or just,
Yeah.
new street, figuring out the parking in later in that day or later in the week, your brain will be better at solving some sort of a problem because you just threw it into a whole new situation and it had to figure things out. It was
Wow.
outside of habit. So it's good for your brain function for solving problems. And it feels like we're so inundated with work and being on call for everything all the time that it
Yes.
feels like we're not allowed to go and take a day to go somewhere we've never been, a museum or something like that. Like here in
Yeah.
Chicago, you've got the best stuff. And
Yes.
and then later on, whatever has been stressing you out, there's might pop into your head a solution.
That's crazy. And that's a different way to think about it. So, and I usually try like different cafes and stuff like that I'll go work into. But I didn't think of it as far as like that. So being solution oriented because I'm in an unfamiliar area. So that was good. That was really good. Um, so what do you feel like what does it look like when you make decisions from self trust instead of societal approval?
I think the feeling like you get this boost of confidence when you are right. That's what I think happens.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, like since this is for women and we're being honest, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and say when I had the idea to start the podcast, I was scared. And
Right.
so I don't want to make it sound because right now it's doing really well, but I
Yes.
think that I want for everybody to know that I was terrified because my
Hmm.
career had been in the university setting. And then at the age of 40, to all of a sudden
Hmm.
try to learn some sort of a new methodology and to see if by chance anybody else outside of a university student would be interested in philosophical discussions. And there are
Hmm.
some great philosophy podcasts that are out there. They're shorter and they are just academic philosophers. They're all men and then they'll talk about one idea from a text. They're great.
Hmm.
What I wanted to do was a little bit different. I wanted it to be an interview format and not this
Yeah.
academic thing. And but it didn't really exist. And there weren't any women doing this.
And you
And
created it.
yeah, and my friend Rudy Salo, who's the co-host, and I also just infinite gratitude because he's a
Hmm.
busy dude. And for him to say, I'm with you. I'll do what
Yes.
do you need? And so the societal expectation does not match a middle-aged woman doing a bit of a career switch and putting
Hmm.
herself in a position of potential ridicule by the internet, and
Hmm.
also talking about philosophy, which is reserved for men. Men talk about justice and all this shit, like
Yeah.
for a woman to do it. And when we started, and Rudy is the one who told me, he started to notice the downloads and people were texting him and saying that he liked us. I
Yes.
hadn't looked at the number. I didn't even know how. I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
I get to talk philosophy. Yeah.
I'm excited.
And he said, we've got something. And so that would be an example of trusting something that is always lit me up. Books,
Hmm.
ideas, history. I just love it. The same way that, I like chocolate. I didn't make a
Hmm.
decision to, I just tasted it and I liked it. That's the end of the
Right.
story. And so to trust that inner spark that you have when you're engaged in an activity that feels like I this is for me. I meant to do this.
Hmm.
And it could be anything. It could be in the arts, it could be music, it could be
Yes.
poetry, it could be being a chef, any of
Yes.
these things. Yeah, any kind of art or an engineer, like my female engineering students who are like, the minority, and they're like, fuck
Yeah.
it. I like building stuff. I like cars.
Do
I
it.
like problem
Do
solving.
whatever makes you happy. Do
Yeah.
it.
And
And that's
it's hard, but it's so satisfying when you're
it
right.
really is. It is. And then it's like not even that, just that, but like when you walk into your passion, like I can feel your energy from it. Like I don't know the first thing about philosophy, but I would want to learn from you because I just feel your energy and it's a positive light. You know what I mean? And so you're like breaking a lot of ceilings and a lot of barriers by doing what you're doing. Because again, you like you said, it's not huge as far as like women being in philosophy. Then you have your own podcast. You're adding a spin to it and like you're making a difference and letting people know like you don't have to again just go to law school or go to school to be a nurse. Like you can do whatever the hell you want, like you said.
Yeah.
And when you feel it, and again, like if it's something you're passionate about, like with this podcast, like I love highlighting people. I love seeing people walk in their purpose and giving them an opportunity to shine because I feel like we don't have that as women all the time. And I feel like, we just need a positive platform. We're not competing. Like I always say, I want to know a little bit about a lot so then I can point people in the right direction of who's the master, and whatever it is that they're doing. So that's huge. Like that's really huge. And I'm glad that you had like a positive impact as far you said Rudy is his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge that he really pushed you because
Yeah.
again, like instead of getting intimidated, like, you don't know what you're doing, Gwen. Like, why are you doing this? He was pushing you and we need that like positive support. So shout out to Rudy.
Yeah. That he really he is awesome, and
Hmm.
his wife is actually, she's also awesome, and she's
Hmm.
guest hosted a couple of episodes. And so
Nice.
I mean I also appreciate his wife Kate. She's on Dr. Medora, and she's a
Okay.
general
Shout
surgeon.
out.
Yeah, but I also think about how much, in the planning of putting stuff together and all the worries, and how much time that he was supportive. And I'm also thankful to his wife, because I'm like, thank you for, letting me have him for a few
I
a
just need
few
to borrow him.
yeah, yeah, and for being supportive as well, because
Hmm.
she's super super smart. And so after we'd release an episode and Rudy would say, "Hey, this was good," I'm like, "But what did Kate think?" Because
Right.
Kate is the one who's really, really smart. I'm like, "What did she get out of it?" But I think
Okay.
that's something that women also, I think that that's something that women have right, that's
Hmm.
different from men, is that women are more community oriented. When
Yes.
you ask a man about his success, he will talk about his personal actions, and
Hmm.
women tend to talk about the support network. Now, the
Around
men
them. Yep.
do have a support network, it's just not mentioned. And women also are go getters and can do shit on their own, but they tend
Hmm.
to, just as I did, I'm realizing I did it too, like
Bring
tend to talk
everyone.
about the community, because nothing that I do would be possible without the friends, without even
Yes,
people at work who have stepped in. Yeah, community
it's
is also really
huge.
important.
Families, friend, like you
Yeah.
said, family, friends, anybody, a colleague, like just someone just saying, like, I believe in you is
Hmm.
huge. And it's like with, like you said, as women, like we carry that with us and we shout out different people, like, I wouldn't be this person without this person, or this person spoke life into me. And so then I felt like I can do it and kept going. Like it's little things like that. So that is very huge. So I know that you're a mommy. What does it look like to be a present mother and then still prioritize your own identity? Because you're doing so much.
It is okay. So again, we're going to talk about the truth. I mess up some days I'm better.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give an example. The other day, when she came home from school, I had some stuff to do on the laptop. I hadn't finished all
Mm-hmm.
my work during the day, and she tried to get me to play with her, and I did for just a little bit, and then I went back to work. And then
Hmm.
in the evening, a little bit later, she wanted me to do something, and I was not in the mood and I didn't want to. And
Yeah.
she's 6, and so she had a little bit of a tantrum.
Hmm.
And that night I went to bed because I was annoyed by the tantrum in the minute in the
Yeah.
moment. But then as we were going to sleep, like I'm reading for her, and then she falls asleep, I realized that she wanted my attention. She's
Hmm.
6. The tantrum was because she has no other way to communicate. And I
Yeah.
had to reflect on, how did I behave this evening? What was my interaction like with her? And so
Hmm.
then the next morning when she woke up, I said, I tell you what, when you get home from school, it
Hmm.
is your day. I laptop will be closed. Whatever it is that you want to do, we're going to do. So
Hmm.
I made sure that I got everything done. And I think that it is not easy to juggle these roles because I'm thinking about the
No.
pressure, I'm thinking about deadlines, and then
Hmm.
she also has needs. And the best that I can do right now is to be reflective on it
Hmm.
because she is a joy. She's, I mean, she's an absolute joy. So I just
Yeah.
bring that up for any other parent, any other mom who gets any of that guilt. I feel it. I've done
Hmm.
it. That was not my best evening. I should have
Yeah.
been more aware of the time. But something that I have done is I got my own coloring book because she likes to do arts and crafts and stuff. And so I was like, oh, there's coloring books for adults. And then I got some
Hmm.
nice markers. So when she and I are occupying the same space, I try to put the electronics away. And
Yeah.
even if she and I are not actually playing together, when we're in the same space, I'll color so that she doesn't see that I'm constantly on the screen, but that I'm
Right.
doing something else. And it's not like I can read a novel because she's, makes noise and stuff like that. The best I can do is color, but I found it
Right.
actually kind of nice and soothing.
Therapeutic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
like
So
that's huge what you
can't do
said
all of it.
because we can't. And I feel like you just reflecting, self reflecting is huge in itself because you're saying, like, okay, you noticed something was wrong and then you fixed it. Because I feel like as moms, like sometimes we don't give ourselves grace and we're too hard on ourselves and we're only one person. And then when you're doing as many things as you're doing or you're an entrepreneur, like, it's hard to turn the laptop off. It's hard to put the
Yeah.
phone down because it's like we're constantly in go mode, constantly thinking about what's my to do list for tomorrow. How can I make sure this doesn't fall through the cracks? And then when you're doing it by yourself, it sucks. And a
Hmm.
lot of times the kids do suffer. But you went back and was like, you know what? I'm sorry, essentially. I'm going to do better tomorrow. I'm going to give you the time you need. And so that's huge. So shout out to you for doing that. And then, as like you said, like if it relates to any moms, like we all go through things. Like my son is
Hmm.
about to be 15 and I'm still getting stuff wrong. And he has no shame in letting me know. So at the end of the day, it's just all a learning process. But that self reflection is huge because then we can do better tomorrow, when we do
Yeah.
fall short.
Yeah, and it's also a generational change and
Hmm.
shift that we really like, especially Gen Xers and millennials, I think are getting better at being aware of because the boomers and the silent generation, my parents were the silent generation, raised with this children are to be seen and not heard. Everything is like
Yes.
because I said so, money doesn't grow on trees. So
Yep.
everything was like go away. But we did actually go outside, which was nice. But everything was like go away. There was really
Right.
not much interaction. And so if I think about somebody of those generations, the way that they would have responded to the child's tantrum is what is wrong with you, and then maybe discipline them for that tantrum.
Hmm.
I
And
think
then
the
go away.
important shift that we're doing is to realize like my child was communicating something to me. I did tell her, like, the tantrum. I said, it's okay to be angry and frustrated, but you can't turn into Hulk smash. Like, you
Right.
can't do that. And then she kind of giggles and we make up. But so instead of shaming her for the behavior, which is what would have been done by older generations, go
Yes.
ahead and then also recognize you're one of the causal factors for that behavior. It's not that it's just the
Hmm.
kid is awful. What role did you play? And that's really
Exactly.
new in parenting and shifting.
And like you said, because I'm a millennial, I'm 33, and I feel like it's huge. Like we see how we were treated as kids, and we're trying to correct it going forward. So those kids, our kids, don't have to deal with the childhood traumas or unlearning like the things
Mm-hmm.
we learned. And I even did a podcast with a therapist out of San Diego a couple weeks ago, and she was just talking about like as children, we're kind of conditioned not to have boundaries and to people please because, like you said, at the end of the day, if we didn't want to go somewhere, you're going anyway, and we don't care why you don't want to go. And so, like, over time, it's just like, okay, well, we're just going to keep people pleasing because that's all we know. And then we
Yeah.
become adults and don't have healthy boundaries and constantly letting people like run through this fence because that's what we were conditioned. So, like you said, giving the kids the autonomy, like, okay, you let her know it's not okay. But what I did wasn't okay too. So let's come together and have like a happy medium where we can make both things work. And I think that's huge. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so shout out to you. And
Thanks.
so you're welcome. And so then the next question is, people talk about becoming like your best self, but what does real character development look like or what does it require?
Yeah, I will say back to the silence thing, it
Hmm.
requires that real character development. And character is really being in touch with the activities that bring you closer to what the ancient Greeks called eudaimonia, which is loosely
Okay.
translated as happiness in English, although it's an impoverished definition. And anybody who is bilingual knows that there's words that exist in one language that don't exist in the other, and that's because
Right.
the idea doesn't exist. So this ancient Greek idea of eudaimonia is what Aristotle said is the object of life. And what it means, it doesn't just mean happiness. It means when you have that aha moment, that
Hmm.
activity of the mind, when you're excited about a puzzle or you're excited about an idea, and that is the flourishing. That is what it means to be excellent, that we have this unique capacity for reason. And so when you tap into that and you engage it, that is what allows for your character to flourish and allows for you to achieve happiness. And this was such an influential position that this is why our American founders put, you have the right to pursue happiness. They did not mean pleasure. They were thinking of this ancient Greek idea. And so this right to pursue it. So we have a government structure that should keep in mind that this is important for people to be able to achieve this type of activity of the mind and the excellence. It's good for the economy. When people are happy, they spend, they invent. But on a personal level, I mean, you just enjoy your life more. So the way in which to achieve this is to focus
Hmm.
on those things that are uniquely human. Like,
Right.
I don't mean like you have to do, aerospace engineering, like the things that make us human that your pets can't do. It can be
Hmm.
that exchange that you have with a friend, taking the time to call back the friend who took the time to call you instead of responding
Right.
with a text. Buy them a coffee. That kind of love, empathy,
Hmm.
laughter. You laugh with your friends. That is the kind of thing that brings about this eudaimonia, this joy.
Yeah.
If you do any kind of sports or yoga or
Hmm.
Pilates, when you push yourself just that little bit more and you achieve it and you feel so good, notice it's not
Yes.
going to make you more money, right? It's not for anything other than it feels good to set your own personal goal. I
Yes.
love mystery novels.
Hmm.
That is my favorite thing to do. I cannot get
Hmm.
enough of them. That when I know I have a break, it is overwhelming for me to be able to go to the bookstore and go straight to the mystery thriller section and pick out some new whodunit. And
Uh-huh.
that is, again, not going to make me any money. It doesn't make me a better parent, doesn't make me prettier or more
What
fit.
brings you happiness?
It's something your pets cannot do. And
Hmm.
yeah, and so what you're doing with these activities, the reason why, I mean, we all know that. I mean, I guess I can't even give a reason, right? Like you experience it, you know it,
Hmm.
or you learn a new word in maybe another language and you say
Yeah.
it and it's just fun to say all of a sudden. I don't know. But that's what it means to develop your character, is to be very
Hmm.
much aware of the things that require your mind that
Hmm.
also light you up. And the more you pay attention to it. Now, notice image doesn't do the same thing. So, for
Right.
example, people really liking your latest Instagram post or your latest TikTok, that is entirely dependent on what other people think. That does
Right.
not develop your character. Fame does not develop your character. Your
Nope.
character has to be this internal awareness of the mental activity that brings that, oh, that joy. Some people make
Yes.
money from it, and some people do it as a hobby. Like,
Hmm.
Rudy, who I co-host with, he likes science fiction and film noir, and he likes to go hiking. These things have nothing to do with law, which is his
Hmm.
profession, but that's what allows him to be a good lawyer. And then
Yes.
same thing for me. Like now the drawing or the coloring that I do, it
Hmm.
allows me to be a good parent. So,
Yeah.
some people make money from the joy, from the eudaimonia. Some people, when they
You
engage in
just
that,
do
it
it.
allows them to do the thing that then makes them a lot of money or can.
Yes. So, moral of the story, guys, is it looks different for everybody. So,
Yeah.
whatever it feels like, again, to you is what it is to you. Like you said, going hiking. I love going hiking. That's where I find my happy place. I love mystery books. I've always been like a Nancy Drew, like CSI type person
Yes.
trying to solve cases. And again, it brings you like some type of happiness to like
Yes.
try to figure out like who did it, or, like the game Clue. Like I used to play computer
Yes.
games, mystery games. Like, and that's my happy look. I'm getting happy now. Like I want to get on the computer. It's
Yes. They're the
it's
best.
whatever they really are. So whatever it looks like to you guys, do it and just enjoy it. And it's like it's your inner child too. It's like you're healing your inner child. You're going back to those moments where you were just purely happy before the world like came over you with bills and responsibilities. Is what
And
I feel like.
it is also I'm just gonna be a little bit nerdy. It's also philosophical. So
Mhm.
I used to feel a bit sheepish about my paperback mystery fictions because especially
Mhm.
in grad school, people were like a little bit snooty and they were reading, the classics or something, and then there I
Uh-huh.
was with like the latest John Grisham in a corner. But I loved it because I can read the classics too. But it got me thinking about why do we gravitate to these types of stories? Because it's so
Mhm.
popular from the Count of Monte Cristo, like all of
Mhm.
these things have stayed and it taps into logic and reasoning. So
Mhm.
if you had to take a class on like, let's do critical thinking and learn
Mhm.
argument structure, boring as hell. But
Yep.
when you read a mystery novel, that's actually what you're doing. It's a puzzle and it has to take you down a couple of different avenues, but then
Mhm.
logically bring you back to who did it. And this was a mystery writer who said this.
Okay.
I feel bad. I've already forgot. I think her name was Jan Burke. And she was giving a lecture and she writes mystery fiction. And she was talking about how the literary community doesn't exactly accept that genre as a
Really?
novel. Yes. And her response to it, I've never forgotten it. She said that the mystery genre cares about justice
Mhm.
because murder is the only instance where all of society has to step in for the victim because the victim isn't
Right.
there. And I think that people who are drawn to the mystery love logic and they
Mhm.
also have this sense of justice because if you did not have that sense of justice,
You
none
wouldn't want
of
to
the
be
story
bothered.
would matter. So
Right.
it is
That's
about
huge.
all of these people, society, law enforcement, the
Mhm.
family that all come together for the sake of the
Of the
voiceless.
victim.
So
And
there.
I
So
love
it
that.
is
That's
snooty high in mind. Yeah. So enjoy
okay.
your Nancy Drew.
My Nancy Drew, my James Patterson. And again, like you said, it's
She's
the
awesome.
logic. And I'm like, I have an HR background, which I specialize in fairness, justice. Everybody has to be treated as an equal. So that makes a lot of sense. So we'll
Yeah,
have to get together, like send me some of your authors that you love in the mystery realm.
I will.
'Cause like I said, I'm trying to do like a book or two a month. To just get myself back into like reading and giving myself like that time to decompress away from the phone, away from the laptop, and mysteries are like my babies. Like I love mystery books. So please share.
Okay.
Um, thank you. Thank you. So what traits do you feel like you had to intentionally build that you didn't have naturally as far as like
I
your
think
success?
I still have to do this. I am just I'm introverted.
Hmm.
Fortunately, I'm no, you know what's funny is that none of my closest friends are. And so I gravitate to extroverts, and we're talking
Extroverts.
like extroverts. Like
Mm-hmm.
my partner, for instance, we describe it as when we go out, he and I are we're as soon as we get somewhere, he and I are like phones, and he is the phone that is plugged in and I am the phone that is unplugged. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're at the same place. But by as the evening goes on, he's getting more charged and I'm losing battery. And by the
Depleting.
end of the evening, I it's very easy for us to find each other. Because
Mm-hmm.
all I have to do, I kid you not, is look at the center of the room, and that's where that man is. And then if he wants to find me, he has to just find the perimeter and the quietest spot, and he knows, and then
And
that's
that's
how
where
we
you are.
work. Yeah. But when it comes to, I mean, one of my two of my closest friends, extroverts, and then Rudy, extrovert. And
Mm-hmm.
what I have learned is that my introversion is okay in my family and friend circle, but it's not okay
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to business. And I
Right.
have to find a way to get some comfort in promotion, and also in maybe delegating, outsourcing
Mm-hmm.
it, because I'm very uncomfortable with any hint of saying, look at me. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that hard for me to promote the podcast because we'll have a wonderful guest and I'll be able to talk about how great they are.
Right.
But for example, if I write something or if I do something, it is incredibly difficult for me to share that news.
Yeah.
And I've just never, and that, but that's part of business. So what I've learned is that I have to outsource a little bit of it and not be
Yeah.
too ashamed of the fact that I'm just inherently introverted, but the
Right.
same way that my friends and family accept it, like they know, like I leave early everywhere. I drive myself
Yep.
so
So
that I
you
can
can leave
exit.
early.
I
Yep.
don't
When you
do
feel like
second
it.
locations. If I agreed to this, no, I'm not
That's
going
it.
anywhere else. Yeah, like I got a book. I got a mystery novel at home with my name
I
on it.
love it.
So, but all of my friends know that. Like they joke
Mm-hmm.
around. You have so much people time. We know that. You can only people for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm able to work that, but with business it's harder.
It
I
is.
don't have a total solution for it, other than to try to outsource some of that to Rudy because he's
Mm-hmm.
natural at that. But other than that, I don't know. I'm still learning.
Yes. And like you said, as a business owner, it's hard, or as running, like you said, your podcast and everything like that. Cause like I'm an introvert too. And what's actually funny is that next week I have an interview with someone and she's in France and she goes over like the business model of like social media and then the actual entrepreneur model. And she was
Hmm.
like, as like a business owner, you don't have to constantly make all these videos constantly, for the algorithm and stuff like that for introverts. But with me starting my business 6 years ago, they're like, you have to post, you have to be in front of the camera. People need to see who you are. And for me, it was scary because I'm like, I don't want to be in front of the camera. Like, I just want people to be successful, but I don't want people to see me. I don't want to just sit here and like, hi, my name is Victoria all the time. So it
Yeah.
it it definitely is different for sure. But I feel like, and with her segment, I think it's going to be huge because she's going to be able to talk to like, you don't have to do that. It's the SEOs, different things like that that you can push in order for your business to still be successful.
Yeah.
Um, so I definitely feel you on the social battery too, because it's just like, all right, this is enough, guys. Like, I'm ready to go home, take a shower, rub my feet together. Like you said, read a book and relax, like get some tea. Because I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, so what do you feel like as a fulfilled woman? What does that look like outside of the societal expectations?
Fulfilled.
Hmm.
Um, I think that, women who are where you can just see it, like you can just tell. I think that it's maybe because they really did choose themselves.
Okay.
Like they did. If you I don't know. There's a novella by the French thinker Simone de Beauvoir, and she wrote it later in life. Like she wrote it. I think it was published in the 60s. She
Okay.
started like in the 1930s France, so she was older when she wrote this. And The Woman Destroyed. It's a haunting story. I read it when I was in my 20s, but now reading it, it's hard, and it is in a diary format. This is to answer your question, I
Okay.
promise. It's written in a diary format, and it's about a middle-aged woman who her husband is thinking of leaving her for somebody else. Her two daughters have moved on, like she's an empty nester. And
Okay.
this main character never once chose herself. She decided to completely attach her identity to mom and wife. And time is passing her by because these
Hmm.
people have all grown and she remains static, no different than an object like this mug. She
Right.
remained like that. And if you just live according to the definitions that other people have given you, which would land you to be like a cup, something that will
Yeah.
never change. It doesn't have any emotions or desires. It is simply a tool for service for me. And she
Right.
chose and she thought she was fulfilled. And the story is so haunting because she didn't even know that there was some other way to be. And Beauvoir wrote this in the 60s. And I think that there's a lot of women that can still fall into that trap where
Yeah.
they have given their identity over to this notion of service, where they are not even thinking about, hey, wait, what do I want to do? What do I think
Hmm.
is, what do, like a lot of women also, they'll morph their interests to their partners.
Yep.
He likes to do this for fun, therefore that's what we are going to do. Or we really liked this show, or we
And I
really enjoyed,
didn't.
there's no I in there. And I'm not
Exactly.
saying you remove the we entirely. There should be a few I statements in there. Yeah, so I
Yes.
think that the fulfilled women are the ones who recognize and use I statements. Their statements are not all we. It's
Exactly.
I traveled here one time, or I loved
Hmm.
this movie, or I remember this concert, instead of starting
Exactly.
out a sentence with we. I think that's part of it.
And I think, like we talked about before, is the millennial generation, we're changing that. Like, we're focusing
Yeah.
on ourselves because, like, we see our parents again when the kids leave. Now they're like, what do we do? We don't
Mm-hmm.
even, they sometimes the household, the mom and the dad don't even do anything together. Like, they don't even know what each other likes because you lose yourself in the identity. Like, I know I was at a point where someone would say, like, introduce yourself. The first thing you say is mom, but it's like, who is Victoria without Caleb? Who is Victoria without the business? What does Victoria like to do? Does Victoria like to work out? And like you said, you lose yourself in your relationships. Because when I was 29, before I got my divorce, I'm like, I don't even know what I like to do. Like, the past 15 years, I'm doing stuff again, and we would do stuff I wanted to do, but it's like going to see horror movies or going to haunted house, different things like that. That I'm like, I don't even like to do that stuff. I'm just doing it because, again, it's we. I'm just trying to make everyone happy, but the self-realization again, and you get those when you sit with in silence. That's when you get those moments where you're like, you really either figure out you do know what you're doing, you do know what you like to do, or you really just don't. And it's kind of scary. So if you're at a point like that, just ask yourself, like, whoever you are, what do you like to do at the core? And it'll open up Pandora's box and you'll find out so many different things about yourself.
Yeah.
And so, for the final question, what would you say to a woman who feels like she's been living her life for everyone else?
Yeah, it's the it's the same thing. And
Mm,
it's hard because there's like there seems to be this either or tension, that when women do take time for themselves, and that means they hate men or they hate tradition or
oh,
something like that. You know what I mean? Like you have to be one
yes.
or the other. And so I want to clarify that when I make a really good meal for my family,
Hmm.
I am happy. I'll like listen to a podcast while I'm cooking. I
Hmm.
love that stuff. I'm the one who takes care of the snacks in the morning. So for my daughter and for her dad, I
Hmm.
do it. And I take this joy in it. Like I'll put like a little, I mean, it's so cheesy. I don't know why I like doing it, but I just do because
Stop. It brings you
I'm like,
happiness.
yes, yes, yes. And so I don't want for anyone to think that when you actually are doing something kind and generous or
Hmm.
nurturing, that women today are saying, no, hell no. That's not what it's about.
Right.
The I think what it's about is really going into that silent mode and maybe ask yourself, when was the last time you had an hour to yourself where you were not needed?
Hmm.
And that is, for women, that's hard because they're always needed. So
We're always
find
needed.
a time, yeah, when you are not needed. And if you
Hmm.
can't remember the last time, then you need to let your partner know or the people around you that you're going to take that
A
hour
break.
of where you are not needed. And I would say, if you have no ideas, then just Google best cafes in your town, or are there any, outdoor concerts, or
Hmm.
let's say, are there any new exhibits? And just go
Hmm.
by yourself and
Yes.
say to everybody, like, okay,
I'm out.
this is my time. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that that's a way where you can kind of start to figure out if you are taking any time for
Hmm.
yourself, or if all of your life, because the lesson from that story, The Woman Destroyed, is that if you act like this cup, just like you, will break.
Hmm.
But as opposed to being a human being, what it means to be human is that we are in a constant state of change.
Exactly.
You're not the same person you were 10 years ago. You're not going to be the same
No.
person in 10 years. That's what it means to be human, is that every interaction, every experience, every
Changes
decision,
you.
yes. And so this cup will never be any different. But if you say, I am wife, I am mom, I am this thing, then yeah, you can be destroyed because you've turned yourself into a thing. So don't allow
Yeah.
yourself to be a thing. But when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to know. So the best way to know
Hmm.
is maybe start with that question. When was the last time I spent an hour where I wasn't needed? And did
Yes.
I do something that I felt like doing?
Exactly. Not what someone else felt like doing. So that was huge. So if you guys missed that, please rewind because Gwen was just speaking bars. Like that was huge. And so thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast on Women Empowerment Wednesday. Gwen, if anybody wants to get in touch with you with anything that you're doing, any seminars, what's like the best way?
The best way, well, first of all, again, thank you for creating this platform. I love
Yes.
it. I'm honored to be part of it. I love your energy.
Thank you.
I think there's so much to learn from you as well, that I think you're
Thank you.
extraordinary, that you said, like, you've gone through these, like, you were a young mom, your
Hmm.
son's 15, you're like, I want to elevate women's voices. I'm
Yeah.
gonna, figure out my stuff, and then I'm gonna make sure that other women come along the way. So props to
Yes.
you for that.
Thank you.
And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, goodisinthedetails.com might be the easiest way.
Okay.
Yeah, because then I've got all the links and stuff everywhere else. So
Okay.
goodisinthedetails.com.
Yes, and then I'll have all your details below to your social media handles, all that good stuff. So again, people can reach out because like you are a book full of knowledge. Like I absolutely love it. I feel a little bit smarter than I was
Oh,
when we
thank
got on
you.
the podcast. No, and I can't wait to meet you in person. Again, if you ever come to Chicago, do like a seminar, anything like that, please let me know
Yes.
because I would love to be in the room. And again, to just take in all of your knowledge. So again, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for changing the world. Thank you for breaking ceilings and giving other people opportunities to shine as well because that's what it takes, like a little bit every day, different people like ourselves, elevating other people to share their story and just again resonate with so many people. So you're doing a great job. You're a great mother, a great partner, a great teacher. Like I'm here for it. So thank you. I can't wait to listen to your podcast.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. But as always, if anyone wants to come on Women Empowerment Wednesday, I'll have all the details below, whether you just want to have girl talk about motherhood, business, anything like that, where you feel like it may resonate with someone or just help you heal by talking about it. I'm here. Details below. And that's a wrap, guys.